Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to Politics with Riley King. Let's begin. First up, Warren draws crowd in first visit to New Hampshire since launching exploratory bid for president. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Adam Sexton.
It's January 2020 level intensity a year early. On her first trip to New Hampshire since launching an exploratory committee for a likely presidential campaign, Senator Elizabeth Warren drew a big crowd of first-in-the-nation voters to Manchester Community College, fired up and ready to go for her message of progressive economic reform.
When I wanted a consumer agency after the crash, and people said it's too hard to get one, the banks lobby against it, it'll never happen. We got organized, we pushed back, and the CFPB is the law today.
Senator Warren's first stop was at WMUR, where she sat down for a one-on-one interview. We asked her about stunning revelations in the New York Times that in the wake of James Comey's firing in 2017, the FBI opened a counterintelligence investigation of President Trump himself to determine if he was acting on behalf of Russian interests.
It reminds me again of the job in front of us right now. The Congress should pass a law to make sure that we protect the Mueller investigation.
If, as expected, Warren moves forward with a campaign, she says she wouldn't make it all about Trump.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise from Washington and a lot of bad decisions that are being made there. But I think for the long haul, people want to see what direction should we take this country, and who's going to be best at doing that?
Voters could have quite a few choices in the 2020 primary, with well over 24 top Democratic names currently in the conversation. But Senator Warren is a familiar face from a neighboring state, and she's known as a politician who doesn't back down from a fight.
She's ready for a fight, but there are many others who are too.
In Manchester, Adam Sexton, WMUR News 9.
Committee responding to Senator Warren's Granite State stops today, saying in part in a statement, quote, Elizabeth Warren and her series of misfires will find nothing but an uninterested audience in New Hampshire, whether it's obstructing important progress in the Senate, advocating for higher taxes and government-run health care, or siding with the far-left fringes of her party. It's clear Warren is focused more on her own political ambitions than helping hard-working families.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Federal employees at Manchester Boston Regional Airport continue working without pay. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Mike Cronin.
Congressman Chris Pappas arrives home from Washington with no end in sight to the government shutdown.
It's outrageous what's happening right now. I mean, this shutdown never should have happened in the first place.
At the Manchester-Boston Regional Airport, Pappas met with the union that represents TSA workers, who should have been paid on Friday. Dave Boucher is one of them.
Some of my coworkers are talking about just using their credit cards, load up their credit cards, or borrow money from friends.
TSA and FAA employees are still on the job in the Queen City, working without pay.
Right now, because of their selfless dedication to public safety, we have seen no impact to our customer service here.
The airport is now working on contingency plans just in case employees look elsewhere for a job.
certainly with a state that has record low unemployment and all the employers fighting for employees right now, there's certainly a concern there on our part.
While these people don't know when they'll be paid again, Pappas says it's crucial to end the gridlock as soon as possible.
I think the shutdown's being used for political purposes. Government appropriations are being used as political leverage, and the workers here at Manchester Airport and across our country are political pawns.
We just hope that Congress and the president work a deal out and end the shutdown so we can pay our bills.
As usual, the airport is advising passengers to arrive about an hour and a half to 2 hours before their scheduled departure time, but says operationally people shouldn't notice anything different here at the airport. That is thanks to the dedicated workers. Reporting live in Manchester, Mike Cronin, WMUR News Now.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. New Hampshire House Committee hears familiar argument on election law bills. A Dartmouth College junior told state legislators Thursday that prior to the November 2018 midterm elections, students received anonymous mailers warning that under two new state voting laws, they were no longer allowed to vote in New Hampshire. While the mailers were false, they cited them as the type of misinformation that two new laws tightening voter registration rules in New Hampshire have generated on college campuses. He said they have caused an intimidation factor among students. The committee held hearings on two bills to repeal Republican-backed bills that became law in 2017 and 2018. House Bill 105 would repeal Senate Bill 3, which requires people who register to vote within 30 days of an election or on election day to provide documentation showing that they are allowed in the state. The penalties outlined in the bill have been blocked by a court while a legal challenge continues. House Bill 106 would repeal House 1264, which is scheduled to take effect July 1st. The new law aligns in state law the definitions of residence, inhabitant, and domicile. It means that in order to vote in the state, a person would have to show that he or she is a resident of the state, which could mean that the person would have to obtain a state's driver's license, register a vehicle in the state, or show other proof of residency. Before a large crowd that included dozens of students, the arguments before the committee were familiar. Opposing the repeals, Ray of Granite State taxpayers said, "We believe that the ability for individuals to pass judgment on government in elections is degraded if people who are voting are not actually allowed to be here living under the rules, laws, taxes, regulations passed by the legislation." Deputy Secretary of State Department David said that while his office has not taken a position on the bills, under existing laws, the state has moved a step closer to balancing elsewhere of voting and ensure the integrity of vote. The political difference this year is that the State House and Senate have flipped to Democrat majorities. They are likely to pass the repeals, and Republican Governor Chris Sununu is then likely to veto them. If the process gets to that point, the question will be whether Democrats can win over enough Republicans in either chamber to muster two-thirds majorities to override the votes. Democrats hold 233 and 167 majority in the House and a 14-10 majority in the Senate, both margins short of two-thirds. The committee will now deliberate on the two repeal bills and vote within the next few weeks on recommendations to the full House. With 12 Democrats and 8 Republicans on the committee, it is likely the panel will recommend that the bills out to pass the House, perhaps with some amendments. Horgen said his goal is to have the existing laws off the books before the 2020. Sorry about that, everyone. First in the nation presidential primary. And we will have to wait and see what happens. And we want you to weigh in on this. Let us know what you think. New Hampshire bill would revoke police authority to use deadly force during arrest. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Aaron Phalo.
Meantime, some members of the New Hampshire law enforcement community are taking a stand against a bill that would restrict their ability to use deadly force. It was filed by the Liberty Republicans and would revoke the legal authority that law enforcement officers have to use deadly force during an arrest. Supporters say they are not trying to tie the hands of police officers. They just want to save lives. But police chiefs say that if the bill becomes law, officers will be put in danger.
It will make it much more difficult, if not impossible, for us to affect our jobs in certain situations.
The House Criminal Justice Committee is expected to vote on the bill later this month.
Okay, and we want to hear from you on this as well. Please weigh in on this and comment below and let us know what you think about this as well. Trump GOP blamed for shutdown. No crisis seen, but fewer oppose wall poll. A majority of Americans hold Donald Trump and Congress Republicans mainly responsible for the partial federal shutdown, now the longest in history, according to a new ABC News Washington Post poll. Only a quarter back Trump claims that there's a crisis at the southern border, and 2/3 oppose him declaring a national emergency to fund a wall there, according to the poll. And that is for this Sunday edition of Politics with Riley King. I hope you all enjoyed this Sunday edition of Politics with Riley King. I'll see you back here next Sunday for another edition of Politics with Riley King. Have a great Sunday, everyone. Goodbye.